Okay, let's get started. We'll start with a quick review of stuff we covered the other day. Thing to remember real quick, our test on this chapter is this Thursday. So it's fast and furious, but it doesn't really need to be any slower because this is pretty straightforward stuff. It's just a memorization thing. If you do your notes, you'll get an A on the test, okay? Understand the concepts, understand what they're used for, and that's pretty much it. So almost a terminology test. In addition to that, we'll have our final exam. I think I posted next Thursday, a week from this coming Thursday. Does that sound right? Yeah. Remote schools, you need to talk now and find out if you got, in other words, Bremen, LaVille, Triton, Culver, Knox. No Culvers here. Yes, one Culver here. Knox. You need to find out, make sure that you're going to be here for that Thursday. Okay? Make sure you're going to be here and you don't have some other final schedule. We only meet 2 days a week. Mine takes priority. Let's talk about DHCP. What's DHCP do for us? Dustin?
Allows proper configuration plan.
You're mumbling, son.
I'm just reading off the slide right now. It allows where proper configuration.
Forget that. What does it do?
DHCP gives you IP address.
Thank you. Some guys, you need to learn to make that transition and make that move from the notes to actually comprehending and understanding and applying. Okay, I know that's something of a challenge at times, but that's what you need to do. So, it gives you IP addresses. What else? Quick. No, DHCP. Gives you an IP address. What else does it give you? Gateway, default gateway. What else?
Subnet masks.
What else? One more that's important.
DNS.
Christopher, raise your hand. Somebody.
DNS.
Yes.
He said DNS server address.
DNS server address, secondary DNS server address, and give you away the server, and give you a bunch of options that we don't even talk about. It's all up on the slide there, guys. It's all up on the slide, okay? All right, so that's DHCP. What is the process that there's an acronym that we use called, yes, what is it? DORA, and talk to me about DORA. What's the first message that's sent out? What's the first message? Forget the slides. What's the first message? D. Not DNS. What's the first message that's sent out? Miguel. DHCP Discover. What's the second message? Austin.
Offering.
And what is that? Tell me what the offering is.
It's saying that I have an IP
From whom
address
to who?
From the DHCP server to the host.
From the DHCP server to the client. Okay. And it's saying, it's giving them an IP address. It says, hey, you want this one? Then what happens? Yes?
Request.
And then who requests what? Jill. The client requests. Yep, so it says, hey, I appreciate that offer. I request that you give me that like on a semi-permanent basis. So give me that IP address. And then the last one, Aaron? Acknowledgement, DHCP acknowledgement. When you do a packet sniffer, it's DHCP ACK. DHCP ACK. Okay? DHCP ACK. Okay, so it goes through that whole process. Give me an example of some different clients that could be doing this, could be requesting it. Jason? Huh? A cell phone. Smartphone, usually. Yes, what else? Any type of computer. What else, Austin?
Smart routers, routers.
Routers typically have an IP address assigned to them. You're thinking of, what is it?
Switch.
Could be a switch. Typically those are assigned to them also. But what my question was, who can be a client, not a server?
Okay.
Okay, give me another one, Jessica. Huh? There's another one, Dustin. Give me another one, anyone. Dustin. What is it? Come on, one more. We already said that. What else? Larry.
any wireless device.
You're thinking.
Larry's got
Give me another one that we use on a regular, well, you guys don't use them on a regular basis. Companies do. Printer, thank you very much. Did anyone think of any that we didn't come up with?
A scanner.
A scanner. Well, that's like another wireless device, right?
Fax machine.
You are not wrong. Just cowardly. Okay, why do we care about that last bullet up there? Austin.
So you can assign your own IP address.
So what now?
I don't know.
Why do we care about that last bullet up there? One more time, redeem yourself.
Reports?
Yeah, why do we care about that? What's the relevance of putting those ports on this slide? Besides the nice to know. Loan in fact. Amaze your friends and families. Impress girls at cocktail parties. Nope. Okay, yes, why?
To troubleshoot if there's a problem, 67, 68 is a problem.
What's the most likely problem with those ports up there?
That's a good
Come on,
question.
come on, come on, come on. What?
That's a good question.
No, it's an easy question. Jessica. What?
Available to attack those parts.
Not opening them up for attack. Aaron.
So you don't block them.
Yes. From what? What blocks them? Firewall. Okay. So the reason we care about ports 67 and 68 for DHCP is Jill turns her computer on, can't get an IP address, and instead she looks at her IP config and she sees what? She can't get an IP address from the DHCP server. Larry, redeem yourself.
It's because
No. She looks at her IP config and what does she see?
she sees that IP might. Actually, I don't know.
Almost there, Larry. Come on.
Wait,
You don't take pressure very well, do you, buddy?
Nah, not at all.
Christopher, what does she see?
DHCP is wrong.
No. See what?
Is wrong.
Yes, it's wrong, but there's something specific. Are you flipping me? No. She's flipping. She sees something other than what she should be seeing. Yes, the HCP is wrong. Yes. I know you know. Somebody over here. Jeet, wake up! Josh. Negative. You do IP config, and you haven't been able to communicate with a DHCP server. What do you see, Austin Shamus?
IP config, DHCP configuration.
Don't just start spewing data.
Yes, I guess it's my best guess.
Johnny, the man with the head, back of the head. I never see your face. Look at me, son. What does he see? What does she see?
You see that it's not connected to the board.
Michael. Yes, well, no, you do have an IP address. Hint. Gosh, you people are just ripping me apart piece by piece, lecture by lecture. Jason. Thank you. Everybody on three say APIPA. 1, 2, 3. Now, Christopher, what does that stand for? Dagger to my heart. Quentin Goronsky, the man, the legend. What does APIPA stand for?
Automatic private IP address.
Thank you. Who said soccer players are stupid?
I did.
Okay, automatic private IP addresses. See what I was trying to get at? I'm trying to tie two concepts together instead of you just regurgitating what you have in your notes. So, back to the ports. The ports are blocked because of typically a firewall somewhere. You look at IP config and you see that it's got an APIP address, which would be what address, Frank? You're fired! What's an APIP address? Give me an APIP address. Very good. 169.254.0.1 or something along those lines. It is a Class B default subnet, which would be what? What would the subnet mask be if it's a Class B default?
I got this one.
No, you don't.
I do.
What would be the Class B default subnet mask? 255.255.0.0. Okay? Clearly, you're not a soccer player, right? Okay. So back to the DHCP server. What different kinds of devices can be a DHCP server? Quickly. Yes. Give me one.
Cell phone. No. A server.
A server. Thank you. What else? Yes. A router. What else?
No, I got this.
It could be. Yes.
Smart switch.
Smart switch. Typically, those are the devices. Or a router can be one. You said that? Did you say that? No one said that.
Please keep the slide up.
You got the slides on your computer. Okay, we're adding DHCP subs. What are we configuring here, Austin Howell?
You are configuring your IP address.
Negative. Look at the, what am I configuring here? What kind of device? Who knows what this screen, where I find this screen? Jessica. Really? We went over this the other day.
Under server mid.
Well, I don't care. It's on a Windows server. That's where you're configuring the DHCP scope. On the DHCP server applet on a Windows server. And it's the same whether it's 2008 R2 or 2012. This tells you, okay, we're back to APIPA. We know about that. Here, why would I disable APIPA? You guys read this material? Why would I disable APIPA? Why would I disable APIPA? No one read the material. No one read the book. Then why would I disable it? How can it get in the way of assigning IP addresses? Well, it talks about it, Josh. If it's too busy or too slow or too far away and it can't get, it's across a WAN connection or something like that, APIPA can assign that IP address, and then when the DHCP server finally sends that message out, or that offer out, it's too late, it's already got one. So in many cases, in a corporate environment, pay attention to me very closely. In a business or corporate or school environment, almost always we want to disable APIPA, because I could care less if those computers are able to have a LAN party. Okay? I could care less if they get some weird IP address, because what I want them to be able to get to are corporate resources. And I'll guarantee you that my servers don't have APIPA IP addresses. So I will set up, and you want to know this, and you want to do this, and you want to memorize this, set up a group policy that will go out and change the, what are we looking at right there? What is that screen a picture of, Austin?
Registry editor.
Yeah, you're dangerous knowing that information. You stay out of your registry, you understand me? You can break things. That is the registry editor. So when you register, hack the registry, one of the hacks is to disable APIPA. Now here's another word to the wise. Stay out of the friggin' registry unless you know exactly what you're doing. Stay out of it unless you know exactly what you're doing, because, God bless you, can cause major problems to the computer if you do that. Problems that you can't recover from. Terminal services, what's another name for this? Quickly. Remote desktop server or services. Okay, terminal services. Tell me about this. What is it used for? What do I use it for in my business? Jason. Sound off, son.
You need someone to do certain things, but they don't know what they're doing, so you can run command lines from your computer.
That would be one very specific example. So a user doesn't understand how to test for something, and so you remote control their computer. Okay, remote desktop services. So every Windows XP and above system has this installed by default. It's not necessarily enabled, but it's installed. And with one click of a mouse, you can enable it, and that will allow me to remote control to your computer. So primarily used for troubleshooting. However, I also use it to remote control servers when I'm not physically there. Not necessarily troubleshooting, but just to manage and do things on servers when I'm not available. There are other programs that are out there that do a similar thing. Can anyone name one? Yes. What's that? TeamViewer will allow you to do that. What's another one that's installed on your computers that you guys don't even know is there? Yes? No, different. Telnet allows you to run commands, and so in a very indirect way, it's kind of similar, but it's not remote control software, considered remote control software. It allows you to do remote commands, but not remote control software. Austin?
Skype for business.
I can't hear.
Skype for business.
Skype for Business, that's the one that's installed on your computers. In addition to that, you also have another program installed called GoToAssist, which allows me to remotely control it. And you need to leave that enabled if you have disabled it. It also lets me know when you're on your computer. I can't see it without your permission, but I can at least see when you're up on the internet. Not necessarily when you're on your local computer, not connected, but when you're on the internet, which is very telling in many cases. I believe Plymouth High School has something similar. Is that correct? For your MacBooks? What?
Like, every time I turn my computer on, there's like a little notification that says whatever you do on it is given to your family or whatever.
Yes.
Is that what that is?
No, that's an extra one I put on yours. Have you been yelled at yet? Then you're doing fine. Okay, here. What do we care about port 3389? Austin Howell?
Troubleshoot.
Is that like the answer for everything? Troubleshoot the default gateway, right?
Right.
No. Troubleshoot, yes, kind of. Why do we care about port 3389 in regard to Windows Remote Desktop Server? Yes? It's a port that it uses, so what's typically going to be wrong if we can't make remote desktop services work? Come on, we just answered this. No. If I can't connect to a remote desktop server, and I know that port 3389 is the port that is used for remote desktop services, what's probably wrong with port 3389? Huh? Not disabled. Come on. Aaron. It's being blocked by a firewall someplace. It could be either the firewall. Apologize again for making fun of it.
Yeah.
Shut up, Peter. Okay, terminal services. Okay, how do we get to terminal services client? Every one of your computers has the terminal services client. Does anyone know this? Everybody click on the Windows key. Type M-S-T-S-C. Enter. That brings up the remote desktop or terminal services client. Bummer.
Yeah.
You don't have that. Okay, so from this window that you're seeing on your screen, how many do not have this window? Type M. There you go, Jill. Who else? Anyone not have this window? Okay, just type M-S-T-S-C. Enter. Anybody else not have it? Larry? You got it. Everybody have it? All right. So from this window, MSTSC, that's the remote desktop client, it'll allow you to connect to a server. You either type in the fully qualified domain name of the resource, or you type in the IP address, either one. There are lots of options in this as far as how big your screen is. Am I interrupting? And what's the problem? Frank, you got problems?
Yeah.
Okay. You have lots of options, how big the screen is, how many colors you want to display. Why do I care about how many colors I want to display on remote desktop client, Johnny? Oh, that's true, yeah. Be smart.
Yes?
Will it stream faster if you have less colors?
If you have fewer colors, it's going to be faster because it takes up less bandwidth. So one more time, John, why do I care about how many colors are displayed in my remote desktop session?
It takes less bandwidth.
So it takes up less bandwidth. Okay, why do I care about bandwidth using in remote desktop? Austin?
Because like, say if you're, it's kind of the same concept like if you're playing a video game, you don't want that to lag, so you don't move your mouse around and stuff.
I can care less about video games. In
Well, no, I
remote
mean,
desktop, as an IT professional, why do I care about the bandwidth? When am I going to use this? Yes.
Well, I was just gonna say that when you already use it, is it already using a lot of
It actually takes up a very little bit unless you start enabling a bunch of stuff. Mike. But when am I normally remote connecting? I mean, in many cases, where and when and what kind of situation am I remote connecting? Troubleshooting, but in what kind of environment? Majority of times when we care about this, if I'm on a gigabit network, I could care less about how many colors are being displayed. I want the it's going to be fast enough. However, if I'm on an internet VPN connection, I have limited bandwidth already. And when you compare your internet connection at home to a gigabit connection on your wired network, it's a fraction, a very small fraction of the total bandwidth available to you. So you're going to have less bandwidth available. I gotta believe that this is, catheter has never been used, but it's really bothering me. Okay, let's drive on. This is a remote desktop connection screen, the one you should be seeing on your computer now. That's all we really need to know. Remote access services. Okay, so RAS, it's kind of like knowing your grandfathers or knowing your forefathers back to the Revolutionary War. If it weren't for RAS, Microsoft Windows would not be where it is today. It's at least not in the corporate environment. RAS is the first service that convinced corporate people, and I being one of them, that Novell should have some competition. So back in the day, back in the 80s and the 90s, early 90s, Novell was the network operating system to be had. Okay, the network or Novell 4.1, Novell 4. That was a major change. Novell 3. Whatever. That 80% of the networks out there, the way they communicate with each other was through Novell. The problem is Novell did not have a good remote control service available that allowed people across a wide area network connection, and back then it wasn't the internet, typically it was a dial-up modem. Novell did not allow us to remotely control a server, and so RAS did. RAS, which was on a Windows server, allowed us to plug in a computer on the network, remote control to that computer from a dial-up connection, and function as if we're on the network itself. Okay? Much as if we're on the network. And so typically my customers, at least, they had 150 devices that were logging into a Novell network, and then they had one RAS server, and they discovered that, oh my goodness, this RAS server is wonderful. The problem is now I have to know Novell, and I have to know Microsoft. I have to know Novell, and that's not all that difficult, or all that easy to do, to know those, because they're two very different network operating systems. And so as time went on, administrators realized, hey, I can do everything I can do on Novell side, I can do that on the Microsoft side. So why don't I gradually just move over to Microsoft completely? And then as time went on, Microsoft became more sophisticated with their Windows network operating systems, Windows NT, Windows Server 2003, Windows Server 2000, 2003, 2008, 2008 R2, now 2012, soon to be 2016. Became much more sophisticated and surpassed what Novell was. If you look at the numbers now, I'm guessing less than 10% of the networks that are out there are based on Novell. Any of you schools still have Novell as your network operating system?
I remember as a kid going through the elementary schools that we had Novell installed on our computers and whatnot, and so we logged in.
Plymouth had it up until a couple years ago. Okay, it's because that's what people knew. There was investment already, and it worked. It did the job. So Microsoft RAS. Now, RAS by itself typically isn't used anymore. Our RAS, however, is. Now here's the thing to remember. Pay attention, boys and girls. This isn't just a matter of writing something down and being able to regurgitate need to think about how RRAS functions. Okay, right now, if I wanted to connect to a remote network using remote desktop services, and I want to do this across the internet, what are my considerations? What are my concerns? What are my concerns? Name one, Austin.
Security.
Security, outstanding. How do I alleviate security problems connecting through the internet? Taylor. Firewalls in place. How do I alleviate concerns passing traffic across the internet? Huh? VPN. What does VPN do for me, Jason? I know what it is, VPN, virtual private network, but what does it do for me? Specifically, what feature? Huh? It encrypts packets and keeps people from being able to sniff out my packets and interpret them and steal the data that's across them. So that's one concern. So security is a big concern. Going through the internet to connect to a remote network, a corporate network, 250 users, 1,000 users, 15,000 users. That's the first concern. Second concern about connecting.
If yours or their firewall is locked in the port.
Okay, so that kind of ties in with security, so we'll just bundle that all in. What's the other challenge that you have when you connect from your home to a corporate network? What's different about that than when you're on the wire? Yes? It's slower because you have less bandwidth. We just covered that a little bit ago. You have less bandwidth. The third thing is you've got to have an endpoint at that corporate network that's sitting there waiting for you to contact it, right? So again, back in the day, we had RAS servers just sitting out there with ports open, firewalls and security and all that kind of stuff waiting for you to connect to it. You could connect to the RAS server, but nothing was encrypted. So Microsoft came up with RRAS. It's sitting out there waiting for us to connect to it. Sits on a Windows server, 2000 on up. Any of them are capable of it. It's an additional service that sits on a Windows server waiting for you to remote control into that device. It provides a couple different things. It provides VPN, so it configures the VPN. So when you remote control into it with a VPN client, not just your remote desktop, that's afterward. You connect to it with a VPN client. It does all that fancy encryption stuff. It does security association. It does encryption of the packets itself, of the payloads itself, and it does the authentication headers. And I don't know if we've got a slide on that or not, but it does all that 3 or 4 different levels of security to make sure that that tunnel that you have in between your home computer and the corporate network is secure. Okay? So that RRAS provides the tunnel, among other things, but primarily today it provides that tunnel. So now that the tunnel is established, think of it like this, and this is very important you understand this. Very difficult for me to explain this to my clients. Once you have established the VPN tunnel from your home computer, from your handheld device, from your other business at a different location, once you have established the tunnel, think of it just like taking a cable from the wall, running it 10,000 miles from that corporate network to your house, and now you are on the network. You got a slow connection, but you're on the network. It's just like me plugging in a cable from there to your laptop. Everything is encrypted, but the difference is this functions at 1/100th the speed of either your wireless connection or your wired connection if you're normally here. So the tunnel provides that cable. Think of VPN tunnel equals really long cable. Think of it that way. VPN tunnel equals really long cable. First thing you need to do is establish the connection. Second thing you need to do, okay, well I've got the cable connected, how do I connect to other devices on the network? Right? So if you want to connect to something on the network here at Plymouth High School, or the network at your house, a printer, or the network at, anybody have a parent's business that they have their computer on, they connect to it? Anyone? No one? No one in here has a, yes. Tell me about it. Okay, and so every once in a while you ever use your laptop on that network, you plug in, okay, so you plug in, you're accessing the resources there. What kind of resources do you access there? Or do they access there? What kind of things? What are they doing on the network besides browsing the internet? Okay, so they're doing taxes. They've got an accounting software sitting out there on a server someplace. They open up their client and they start accessing that data. Well, when they're doing that, it's not like opening up a web browser, right? A web browser is simply screenshots. That's all you're doing is replacing screenshots. When I open up a server application like a database, like an accounting program, like a CAD program, like a CAD licensing program, something that comes to mind right now. When I'm doing that, there's huge amounts of data that are going back and forth between me and that server, my computer and that server, my handheld and that server. And that's okay when I've got a gigabit connection from here to that server, all right? But when I'm going across a 10 megabit connection, that's actually pretty good. If you can isolate and be able to have a VPN connection that's actually functioning at 10 megabit, when I try to open up a Word file off the server, or I try to open up an email package off the server, right, and it's trying to transfer that huge amount of data, huge lag, okay? So, instead, we use, what tool could I use to speed that up? I've got a VPN connection, I want to connect from my laptop to the network, and I want to run applications that are on the network. What tool could I use? Austin?
Top more hops, I guess?
Negative. I'm going to assume that the connection between me and that network is as efficient and as quick as the ISP provides. However, you brought up a great point. These local internet service providers, if I have a 100 meg, let's make it simple, a 20 megabit business, turn it off please. We'll come back and talk about it when we get back.